Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Welcome back to the Maverick News Channel, everyone. Hello, Maverick family. People are losing their minds. No, they've lost their minds. There is this strange mass formation ostrich psychosis that is spreading like a virus tonight. I swear to God, people have lost all touch with reality. We'll talk about that tonight as that story ties into so many other things going on. Canada as the 51st state, measles, and Canada's international status in that regard. Trade, what's going on between the United States and Venezuela and Colombia. All of these things, they all intersect. They're all related, even though they may appear not to. All that and more coming up right after this.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on Earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching.
The world is watching. On TV, the entire world is watching. On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching. Maverick News isn't just a news outlet, it's a community of truth seekers. Your donation at freedomreporters.com fuels our mission to report the stories that mainstream media won't touch. Thank you, Maverick family.
What has been going on out of that ostrich farm in Edgewood, BC, where the Canadian Food Inspection Agency just called, we don't know how many birds, because the farm owners couldn't keep track. Although I think the official count from the Canadian Food Inspection Agency ultimately was 314. Somewhere between 200 and 500. CFIA number 314, I believe. But it has not really been about the ostriches, not since last December, when the bird flu outbreak was reported anonymously to the Canadian Food Inspection Agency because the farm failed to report it because they didn't follow any rules at any time. But this is being political. The protest that emerged around all of this, 100% political, 100% anti-Canadian, 100% pro-51st state, fueled, funded by American interests, most prominently by John Catsimatidis, who stuck his nose into Canadian affairs again today. This is a multi-billionaire who also high profile during the New York mayoral race. This guy based in New York. He owns a huge grocery store chain in New York State. Owns WABC Radio, the former flagship for ABC out of New York. Beams his signal not just across New York State, up and down the eastern seaboard, but also into Canada. So he has influence on both sides of the border through his media interest. He is a huge Trump supporter, funder, financier, biggest purchaser of Alberta oil. He's an oil tycoon, owns a refinery, has been sticking his nose into Canadian politics out through that ostrich farm. I did so again today. And I've been telling everybody that what's been going on out of that farm is an exercise in disruption designed to destabilize or contribute to the destabilization of the country, Canada, in order to help facilitate the ushering in of a new era where Canada would become the 51st state. Today, he held a news conference to give Katie Pasitny another opportunity to cry on a broad and expansive platform through his radio station, through a news conference, which is then amplified through other media in order to tug at heartstrings. And through the course of this, he said today that he thinks that something is rotten in Ottawa and that it may need an investigation by an outside force, maybe even, oh, you guessed it, the United States. Do you see, this whole thing has really served in the end as it's served the purpose of creating another opening through which the Trump administration and him can create another little wedge and an opening to insert U.S. influence, foreign influence, into Canadian politics. That's what today's news conference was about. Let's let some of this run. I'm going to go, actually, you know what? I don't want to let the whole thing run because it's exploitive. And he's got a huge voice to begin with. But here's the clip that is of most importance. This is John Catsimatidis saying, better get the United States involved. The U.S. needs to investigate this because Canada, of course, can't take care of its own affairs.
Iconic animals had the right to live. They stopped the United States government of their offer to test them. They stopped them too. Something, you know, the old expression, something's rotten in Denmark. Well, something's rotten at the CFIA in Ottawa. And I think that this requires an investigation by an outside force, whether it's the United States or whether it's the other international courts. But something the truth has to get out. Iconic animals.
Yeah, you're not going to find truth with him because I've listened to him talk about this on his radio programs, and his information has largely been inaccurate. And at times I'm suggesting to you that maybe not entirely honest. He has an agenda. Something stinks, all right. Something's rotten. Oh, definitely. 100%. Prehistoric birds. The choice of words, inaccurate. Saying police are terrorists, that the birds are prehistoric. No, they're not. They don't actually, that they're not prehistoric. You can look it up. The ostriches at the farm in Edgewood, British Columbia, prior to their culling this week, well, within the last week, over the weekend, they I looked this up to get this stuff right. It sounds more compelling, and it creates this image of, you know, an endangered species or something. These are not an endangered species. They are a common type of ostrich, Struthiocamelus. They are not particularly, even as they survived the bird flu outbreak, some of them, 69 died. And if you look up the stats, if you look at flocks across the same type, healthy adult Struthiocamelus, global data shows that 70%, sometimes even 100% survive in non-experimental outbreaks, which is what happened at the farm, because they weren't experimenting with bird flu. They were experimenting with COVID. That's they keep saying that they've been conducting antibody research, but the research was into COVID. That's what they were injecting COVID antigens into the birds for a long time. If anything, that weakened their immune systems, and that is what led to potentially some of the illnesses that those birds experienced and some of the die-offs, including a Pseudomonas bacteria outbreak that killed a bunch of the birds prior to the bird flu outbreak. So the number of birds that died based on the size of the flock at the farm, we'll say around 400 to 500 birds. If you look at the percentages, there's nothing unusual about the survival rate or the death rate, however you want to look at it. The universal ostrich's resilience highlights ostrich's brood species level strength against H5N1, not a farm-specific miracle. There's really nothing unusual about what happened out there with regard to like the numbers of birds surviving. And that's what I've been saying all along too, is like, show me the study. Show me the studies that were done into bird flu out at the farm to support any of this. It doesn't exist. So now what do we have? We have this mania out there. It's crazy. The birds have been given names. This has been an information warfare campaign from the beginning that became refined once they brought some of the key players out to the farm. Most notably, I would say Jeff Gaudry, who became their media manager. He gave everybody their talking points. He coordinated the social media blitzes, made sure all the live streamers who became involved all fell into line, and they had consistent messaging, and it's been a very effective campaign. And I've been saying all along that it's really about, as soon as we saw RFK Jr. and Dr. Oz from the Trump administration stick their noses into this thing, and John Catsimatidis get involved, it became very clear that this was really related to Canada and the 51st state rhetoric. And then there's Catsimatidis again today. He's taken this issue under his wing, so to speak. He's given Katie Pasitny a platform many times, and he's been funding this, and he can afford to do it. Meanwhile, they're asking everybody to donate, and they've collected hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so for some people going out there, it's being a big grift, but there's Catsimatidis again tonight, sticking his nose into Canadian politics. Meanwhile, I'm being said, people are messaging me even overnight. Rick, you're heartless. Rick, you're cruel. Because I'm just bringing you the information. Rick, don't you think that it was inhumane? Well, I'll tell you what's inhumane. Those ostriches, they're native to Africa. Those ostriches, not native to North America, in case anybody doesn't know this. Those ostriches come from areas where the climate is moderate to tropical, where it never gets cold. You don't get the snow. You don't get the deep, deep sub-zero temperatures where those ostriches are from the way you do in the part of British Columbia where that farm is located. We're told that the farm owners loved those birds. They named those birds after all of this erupted. We saw them naming the birds sometimes as we went along, after some of the protesters at the farm. But those birds were abused. They'd been abused, in my opinion, for years at the hands of the farm owners. They were left outside year-round in a giant open pen, even in the depths of winter, where the temperatures would get down sometimes. I know that out in that area, it can get frigid cold. Minus 30, minus 35, plus wind chill in the depths of winter. And they left them outside in the ice and the snow, and they can get tons of snow up there too, as anybody knows, in that part of British Columbia. It's certainly not a tropical zone. It's starting to get cold up there now. And they were left outside all year round. We saw that the bird flu outbreak came in December or there on or about, when it was getting cold a year ago, because the birds are stressed. The birds were out there running around in the open pens. We know that there was a history of birds getting caught in fences, becoming injured. The numbers of the birds went up and down, and they didn't even really properly account for their own livestock out there. That's truth. You might not want to hear that because you're all dialed in on the Oh God, don't, we got to just save the ostriches. For what? If they had been saved, what would they have been saved for? They would have been condemned to more research because they were being raised for food production, although they were always part of some sort of a study dating back to the 1990s involving selective breeding. And then during the pandemic, they pivoted entirely to research where they were injecting the birds with antigens, with needles over and over. Nothing natural about that. Over and over and over and over and over again in order to artificially induce the production of COVID antibodies, which then became present in the eggs. And then they were selling the eggs. Oh, by the way, there is evidence to show that they were still selling those eggs from the research birds to human beings, including children, for consumption. But hey, who needs rules, right? Who needs the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, which is charged with the task of keeping the food supply safe? Whether you like it or you don't like it, that's what their job is. And those are the policies that have been developed over decades with regard to the response to bird flu. And so this should have been essentially a routine call, but instead it became this media circus. And the real abuse that I see taking place and that has been taking place for a while has been on us, on you. Because the people running the information warfare campaign out there really have been conducting a kind of a psyop. A psyop, where they're driving people crazy, turning things upside down, making people think crazy thoughts. So crazy that even overnight, this is a friend messaging me upset about the birds. We disagree on the birds. Fine. But here's the concerning thing. And I feel I just have such deep concern for my friend. Because my friend referred to the police officers out there. Well, first she said pigs. Said pigs had been exposed to the blood from the cull. And I was like, what are you talking about? Pig? No, not animals, pigs. I thought this friend was talking about pigs, like farm animals. And I'm like, well, I haven't heard anything about other farm animals being exposed to the blood from the hay bales. What are you talking? Send me the link. No, not pigs, animals, pigs, cops. My friend, who shall remain nameless because I do like this person very much, proceeded in this to call for all of the police officers out there, all the pigs, to be culled. That never crossed my mind until later. I'm like, that's what is meant by the word pigs. It took a couple more messages to realize what was being said. That's not thinking straight. That's not thinking straight. That's messed up. No. Congratulations, Mr. Gaudry and clan, on a very successful information warfare campaign. You've succeeded. You got what you wanted because you weren't there to save the ostriches. You never were. You are out there to create trouble. You're not there for a solution. You're not trying to look for a solution to the problem. You are the freaking problem. You are the problem. Because you're part of a campaign, a concerted, ongoing, fifth generation warfare campaign against this country. against Canada. That's what that whole thing has been about out there. It was never about saving the ostriches. In fact, you never wanted those ostriches saved. This is the gift that will continue to give. This is the gift that will keep on giving to these 51st staters, to the separatists, to the people who hate Canada, to the people who burned the flag, the Canadian flag at the farm. You wanted the photo op, and you got pretty close to what you wanted. You got carcasses in the field. You didn't get to live stream the actual culling. But those kinds of images are available around the clock at abattoirs. Why don't you go there and live stream some of that? Or I saw somebody else post today of, images of Freedom George culling over 100 chickens. Why don't you go out and visit him? And the next time he culls he slaughtered them for food, I guess. Because people can't stomach it. People today in our civilized society, they don't want to see it. But here we go. If you're out there and you want to call police officers, if you're actually saying that, you can still be my friend, because I understand that you're not thinking straight right now, that you're very emotional, but that's not cool. And really, I think anybody at that point, and we've seen other people online, I've drawn attention to it, step back from it just a little bit. Calm down. You're being manipulated. They're screwing with your mind. They are ostriches. There's really nothing special about them other than the fact that they've been experimented on. If you had saved them, you'd have only been saving them for a future of future experimentation and abuse. That's the truth. That's what they wanted to do with them. That's what they said. They need to be studied. Well, what are you going to do? Is it like a freaking petting zoo? No, it's not a petting zoo. Never was. It was a farm. They were selling the birds for food, which they don't want to talk about today. I'll say this. Some people running petting zoos are more responsible in the way they operate their businesses than the people out at the Universal Ostrich Farm, who have been nothing but irresponsible because it's been their stock and trade to not follow any rules and run against all the rules and intentionally disobey all rules. There's another farm. I told you about these people a few weeks ago, Butterfield Acres. They had a bird flu outbreak in Calgary. Petting zoo there is now reopened after having to close temporarily due to confirmed bird flu cases. Butterfield Acres voluntarily closed from October 13th to 17th due to confirmed cases, and the Alberta Health Services then issued formal closure order for the facility. Alberta Health Services ordered the closure after 9 cases of highly pathogenic avian influenza were confirmed in the poultry at the facility last month. So they did cull the birds at the farm. And then maybe this will put my friend's mind to ease. They had other animals out at the petting zoo too, and they didn't cull any of those other animals. And I know that that is something that you were concerned about and have been concerned about, that what happened at Edgewood would just pave the way for the CFIA to then go from farm to farm to farm to farm and just start killing all the animals to destroy our food supply so that we all starve to death. And that is not what is happening. It's not going to happen. That's not what the CFIA has been doing. That's not what the Canadian government has been doing at all. And that is not what happened at that farm in Calgary. They're back on track. They've reopened. They're reorienting. They would have received compensation for the birds that were culled and the other animals after having gone through all the protocols for sanitation and isolation and a period of time to make sure that the facility is free of the bird flu. See, by getting rid of the sick birds right away, they were able to expedite the process of getting the place reopened. And so in a matter of weeks, they went from having a bird flu outbreak to being able to reopen as a petting zoo and resume operations. Here's the quote: "We are now back in the saddle, trying to catch up on all our fall bookings and to get ready for all those great Christmas and holiday events." Their thing didn't drag on for a year. That's also one of the reasons this policy is in place, because if you don't cull the birds, it prolongs the process through which a farm has an infection, which makes it more difficult for the farm as a business to purge or get rid of the presence of the disease and then have healthy animals, healthy birds back on the premises so they can resume operations. It could drag on for months or longer, maybe. That's one of the reasons this is the process in place. Now, I'm not saying that that's the only option. I'm not saying that that couldn't change. I'm just telling you what is in place and why it's there and why the rules are the way the rules are. And this is an example of what happens when people follow the rules, and we've seen what happens when they don't. And we've seen now what happens when it becomes a political thing. We've seen what happens when you get foreign interference in our national affairs. We've seen what happens when they turn something like this into a psyop, some weird thing where they're screwing with people's minds, people sucked down into a rabbit hole so deep, so dark that they literally lose touch with reality. So now what are you doing? You're all out there chasing around garbage bins. Like you're going to achieve something by doing that. It's just, you've lost your freaking minds. You're scaring people. Let's follow this dump truck to the landfill site. We got to find out where the carcasses have been taken. Why? Because they want every opportunity. They want this whole thing archived. That the people with the political agenda, they want every piece of this video on video. They want it recorded so that they can keep using it over and over again. It's the gift that keeps on giving to them. And they're using the people, have been using the people at the farm as pawns, they've just been manipulating them, getting them to do their bidding. They've lost their minds. They're psycho at this point. And the insanity of it all, it's not over. I told you it wasn't going to be over. It's not over. In some respects, it escalated today. Right here. Because I guess this was inevitable given the kind of politics that's practiced in the United States these days, where everything becomes some sort of a weird conspiracy thing. Whether it's Donald Trump's the attempted assassinations on him or the assassination of Charlie Kirk, everything gets spun up into some weird conspiratorial thing where the dead people become living again, and you have people, ghosts, and so-and-so is still alive. Elvis is flipping burgers on the east side. You've got now Katie Pasitny from the farm suggesting that some of the birds are still alive. I mean, I guess it just had to be, especially since they named one of the birds after Charlie Kirk. I thought they already had names, but apparently not, because they still had one name, at least one bird that needed a name. So they named it Charlie Kirk after Charlie Kirk's assassination. And now we're hearing tonight that some of these birds might actually still be alive. Why? Oh, that's because the CFIA and the Canadian government, they've stolen the birds to steal the research so they can get access to the antibodies, which we're told they didn't want. They keep making shit up. We were told for a while by people like Mr. Creighton and others, that the CFIA was killing the birds in defiance of the Supreme Court stay order while the appeal application was being reviewed, and they were killing all the birds and taking them away in dumpsters. Then we were told that they're all being liquefied. The carcasses were being liquefied in a horrific fashion to just creep you out even more. Then we were told all along that the reason they wanted to do that is because they don't want any antibody research done. They want Big Pharma to be able to, I guess, kill you with pharmaceuticals, so they wanted to just destroy the birds so that the antibody research would be destroyed. But now they're saying that the birds are still, some of them are alive, because the government does want the antibodies so that they can give it to Big Pharma so that they can develop vaccines, which is what the antibody research would have been used for to begin with, was to make vaccines, which is what they're against, which is why none of this shit makes any sense. None of what they say holds up. They contradict themselves. They spin this crap up. They've been lying, being completely dishonest, and all these live streamers out there lying with them, helping, screwing with people's heads. And now some of the ostriches are still alive. If you believe this shit, you really need to take a flashlight down into that rabbit hole with you.
There is guaranteed missing animals. Yeah. There is not what they said of animals. There is not that in those bins.
We'll figure that out for you, Katie.
We have live ostriches. I'm guaranteeing you. This is in my opinion and my speculation. I'm gonna say that all the time, but we have hens that are gone. They've taken hens. They are using our hens. They are using our antibodies. They are using the research. I don't know where they are, but I bet you, with how big this has gotten and how gruesome this has gotten, I pray to God that there's going to be a whistleblower that tells us where our living babies are.
We need a drone.
I have a drone. I need batteries, or I need a way to charge these on the way there. Is there a way to charge this in the car on the way there?
Yes, we have.
Okay, then by the time we get there, I can get these charged.
If you guys, whatever you can do, because we have to do it today, because I don't think by tomorrow it'll be as easy to see.
I'm going to charge the drone on the drive right now. I might have enough charge right now to do a quick flight over the bins. I'm willing to lose the drone, and I'm willing to lose my license for this too. That's okay.
Hey guys, I want to give you an update here.
Hi, Dawn.
So I'm with somebody I won't name, and we've gone rogue. We've snuck into the dump. We are at one of the top of the mounds, so we have a bird's eye view of a lot of things. We've got a shred of daylight left, so we're gonna take a couple more roads here and see what we can see. We're taking some video and some pictures, and we'll make those available to the people that need them. And there are some plans in the next day or two for possibly some air activity, but again, I'm not going to go into that on a live.
Yeah.
So just let me know.
As much as you did already. She's boots on the ground at this point. We want to be able to see what's going on. That would be super awesome. Thank you guys. Thank you again, Dawn, for doing what you're doing. It's freaking amazing.
These people broke into a landfill site. They broke into a landfill site. They broke into a garbage dump at night. I'm sure they're thinking straight. Everything's fine. I've been to garbage dumps. And I've shot video for television stations in garbage dumps. In fact, I used to say to people used to say, wow, that's a really glamorous job you have working in television. And I said, not really. Well, what kinds of things do you do? Well, some days I get to go and interview a politician in their office. Other days, I'm at a garbage dump. I really, that's what I used to say to people. I still do, kind of. I haven't been to a garbage dump to shoot video in quite a while, but yeah, I used to do that. And in fact, there's a issue with a garbage dump that they want to create. They want to make a new landfill site not far from here. There's an issue there. And yeah, there's a garbage dump not far from here. The point is, it's not glamorous. It's also dangerous. So when I've gone in to get video inside a garbage dump, I always spoke to the operator of the landfill site. You get permission, you go in, you're usually escorted. Do you know why? Because there's all kinds of hazardous stuff in a landfill site. You don't know where you're stepping. You don't know what you might step on. It can be something just buried. You could cut yourself. You could step on a dirty needle. You could cut yourself on a piece of metal. You could become exposed to some sort of biological waste, medical waste from a hospital. I don't know. It could be just about anything. It could be toxic stuff that someone has just tossed in the trash, and you don't know. Because you just don't know. Even the people at the landfill, we don't really know what goes to the garbage dump. So it's not a safe place. So you have to be very careful where you go, where you step, where you walk. You should be wearing safety boots. But the people who have been conducting this information campaign, this information war out there, have screwed with people's minds so much that they've put them in harm's way because they've actually got them jacked up to the point where they've been following trucks around with blue bins, trying to figure out where they were taking the carcasses of the birds after the cull. And getting to them to the point where they literally are breaking into landfill sites, putting their own health and safety at risk. For what? That is psychotic. Don't do that. You could get hurt. You could infect yourself with something and get a serious illness or an infection or an illness that you might have to live with for the rest of your. Don't do that. Calm the frick down. And you people out there doing all this, you other live streamers, shame on you. Every one of you. For the bullshit that you're pulling. For the way that you're abusing the people who watch your programs. It's cruel. You're preying on people who are vulnerable. A lot of people who have been through too much already. Certainly over the last 4 or 5 years, the pandemic and all the crazy crap that's been pumped into people's heads during all that period of time, you just stop. Talking about abuse and inhumane treatment. That's what the abuse is. That's what's inhumane. You're messing with people's minds. Birds are still alive. Charlie. Shame on you. I'm going to play you something. Going to mute this for a moment. Don't go anywhere. It's coming.
Other saved wireless voice messages. First saved message. Well, are you happy now? But you're just sitting there laughing last night when all those shots were being fired. Absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. I cried all last night and took to my stomach. There were 1,000 shots. That means they weren't killing them right off the bat. The most inhumane, cruel way to kill them. I have no use for the government of Canada, no use for CFIA, no use for our justice system, and I've lost faith for the RCMP. This is not Canada anymore, and honestly, it's not worth saving. It's just a piece of fucking nothing, this country. And I want to thank all you retards for voting in a government like that. And I hope tonight on your show, when you put Katie's video up there crying, that you have a heart. If not, don't put it up there, because you're being watched. And the world is angry now, and they're upset. So be careful what you say tonight, Walker. This might be your last night on air. This is a warning from me and many, many other podcasters and everybody else. To erase this message, press 7.
When that person calls, I normally don't listen. But I decided. I feel sorry for. I feel sorry for you.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom. Maverick News. The world is watching. Maverick News isn't just a news outlet, it's a community of truth seekers. Your donation at freedomreporters.com fuels our mission to report the stories that mainstream media won't touch. Thank you, Maverick family.
That person filled up my voicemail because they're not thinking straight. And somehow I've become the enemy. I'm not the enemy. I'm not happy about the outcome. I don't hate ostriches. I have no ill will toward the farm owners. But I don't like liars. I don't like people being abused. I'm just doing my job. Serving you. And I know that what's going on is not right. And for some people, it's just a grift. But I think people are beginning to clue in a little bit more on that. Most people not paying enough attention, though. You know, and I used to have a lot more respect for this guy than I do now. Ezra Levant. Visit avengetheostriches.com. There's a free plug for you, Ezra. It was Save the Ostriches? Or Save Our Ostriches? Whatever it was. That's what the fundraiser. Now it's Avenge the Ostriches. Well, they didn't save the ostriches. So I guess all the money that was donated went for, I don't know, what? What is it you're donating to at avengetheostriches.com? How are you going to avenge them? What's the plan there? How do you avenge the culled ostriches? What's the end goal? Didn't save them, now you avenge them. Whatever. Canada is lost its measles elimination status. This confirmed today by the Public Health Agency, the first country in the Americas to do so since the COVID-19 pandemic. The Pan American Health Organization warns this could signal trouble ahead for Canada and this region. The key trigger, the same measles strain, has spread continuously in Canada now for over a year, starting with an outbreak in New Brunswick in October of 2024. And as of today, officials report now 5,138 cases nationwide, including 2 preterm babies who died after in utero infection. PAHO Director Jarbis Barbosa is calling it a reversible setback, but stressed that the need for better vaccination rates and surveillance is there, and says that Canada had eliminated measles back in 1998. The virus is surging across the Americas with 12,593 confirmed cases region-wide so far this year, 30 times last year's total. 95% are in Canada, Mexico, and the U.S. In Mexico, nearly 4,000 cases since February, mostly in Chihuahua State, with 23 deaths. In the United States, 1,681 cases in 2025, the most in over 30 years, spanning 41 states. It began in West Texas, claiming 3 lives, including 2 young girls in Gaines County. Separate clusters include nearly 200 cases in a border straddling Utah-Arizona community and 38 in northwestern South Carolina. Vaccination rates are dropping. PAHO reports just 79% coverage for both MMR doses last year. An NBC News investigation, which is where I was getting some of this information today, found that 77% of U.S. counties saw declines in childhood shots since 2019. Measles is the planet's most contagious virus. It lingers in the air for up to 2 hours. PAHO's independent experts verified the data last week in Mexico City, and globally, the Americas account for only 7.5% of cases, mostly elsewhere in the Middle East and South Asia. And this is the fallout from a series of events since the pandemic that has led to increasing erosion of trust in our institutions, and especially our medical systems and doctors and researchers, and the rise of political figures who have politicized things like vaccinations. And I don't know how we get back to a better place of trust and accurate and helpful public health advice from our institutions. Because what's happened in the United States is, since the Trump administration has come in, since Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has taken control as health secretary, a lot of things, even on websites, has flipped upside down. So what was supposed to be true from one administration is now not true, and the opposite is true based on the new administration. And so what is the public supposed to believe? And ultimately, what this ends up doing is undermining trust, so people don't believe any of it, and they just do their own thing. And that's not helpful. There's some of that going on under that ostrich farm, too. I don't know, man. I'm just tired of all this, and it's dangerous. Dangerous. They're playing games with our health, with our food supply, with our minds as they play politics. And you think, I don't know, if you can't see that this stuff is interconnected, there it is today. Anand, Foreign Affairs Minister for Canada, with Marco Rubio, Secretary of State. And Anand says that Rubio has avoided 51st state chatter as G7 meeting looms. Anand is welcoming Rubio and other foreign ministers from G7 countries to Ontario's Niagara region. Anand said Monday that Rubio has not raised this with me verbatim or even insinuated it. She will welcome Rubio and other foreign ministers from a group of 7 countries to Ontario's Niagara region tomorrow and Wednesday to discuss shared economic and security challenges amid global uncertainty. We are on a playing field where we want to engage on the crucial issues confronting our countries and the world at large, Anand said in an interview, and we are all, as G7 partners, coming to the table in good faith to push these crucial issues at a very volatile moment geopolitically. The Canada-U.S. relationship has been strained by Trump's growing tariff agenda and threats of annexation. I told you Tucker Carlson wasn't joking. Then he said he was coming to Canada for a speaking engagement in Alberta. And he said he was coming to liberate Canada when he phoned the Prime Minister's office in advance. I don't think he's joking. It sounds funny. People laughed, thought it was hilarious. Not so hilarious now. But I think a lot of those people who said, oh, he's just joking, they knew he wasn't joking because they're part of it. And if they're not part of it, it's what they want. Gonna miss Canada when it's gone. You think you're gonna get rich? Yeah, that's what people in Alberta are being sold, is this BS lie that you're going to get rich. Be so much better off if you just declare your independence. You're not going to be independent. You vote for separation, you're going to get swallowed whole by the US of A. The oil oligarchs are coming. And they're going to take your oil. And you're going to like it, whether you like it or not. Just like they want to in Venezuela. Oh, yeah. That is why Maduro, let me see if I can find it here. Maduro has been here, I'll find it again. Maduro has been studying Vietnam's military tactics. Because that's how you fight a superpower in 2025. And like I said last night, if you're looking to take over Canada or a country like Canada and you're the United States, you don't go in guns a-blazing like you would in Nigeria, as Trump has suggested. You use fifth-generation information warfare tactics. You destabilize the government. You create something of a color revolution through protests. You get people upset. As Major General Paul Vallely told me, the whole key to this thing is convincing people that Canada isn't a real country. His words to me. Maduro eyes Vietnam War tactics, prepares Venezuela for a potential U.S. strike. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has revealed that his government is studying Vietnam's guerrilla warfare strategy as part of preparations for a possible U.S. attack. I'm not sure that they will attack, because I don't think Trump actually wants to go that far. I think he's hoping that just the show of force alone will result in regime change so that he gets an administration in there that he can control, so he can give the oil oligarchs and a certain segment of the MAGA base the blood oil money that they lust after. Venezuela's oil reserves, the largest in the world. And we're going to need that energy for all these AI facilities that they want to build. There's a whole shift going on geopolitically. That's why they want Alberta's oil too. That's why they're going to build AI, artificial intelligence facilities in Alberta, right where the energy is. Reports suggest that Caracas has already begun constructing Vietnam-style tunnel networks in forested regions designed to provide strategic cover and mobility in the event of military confrontation. Isn't it terrible that we've got a peace president, or a president who says he's all about peace, and yet a country is so afraid of him invading that they've gone to those lengths? Isn't it strange that here in Canada, some people are coming to the realization that the Trump administration might actually go so far as to signal some sort of a military intervention in Canada? it all goes back to the convoy. There's another one coming up. A coincidence? I think not. All this stuff always seems to come together at just the right moment, almost like it was planned. Big convoy on the heels of the Ostrich call, farmer protest, Canada, all major cities across Canada, November 22nd. Here's the poster. If it comes up. Enough is enough, they say. We are all witnessing how the Liberal government has failed us over and over again in the last decade. And now it's time we show them we've had enough. So we are going to act like the bold England and Dutch warriors, and we are going to hit the highways on November 22nd with slow rolls across the country in protest against the CFIA and the Liberal government. Please share and let's make this big. We shall see. I have no issues with protests. I have no issues with pushback against government. I have no issues with people who want to affect change, as long as it's done peacefully and in a democratic way. That's all cool with me. But isn't it weird how this stuff always just seems to come together, especially since the pandemic, year over year over year? And the whole thing out of the Ostrich farm was just the protest du jour, or the protest of the year or the season. Oh, you mark my words, if we're not the 51st state by this time next year, there'll be another one. It'll just be another issue. They've moved from lockdowns and mandates to Save the Children was the next big one. That was a very successful protest, although I don't know that it actually achieved any kind of change. And then there was the big camp outside of Ottawa for a while. That turned into a circus. And then now we've got there was the Winnipeg thing. And now there's this thing out of the Ostrich farm. And if you go from one thing to the next, to the next, it's always the same people. And then from one province to another province. And why would the same people show up at these protests? Because it's an ongoing thing. And it's really not about the ostriches. It's just about finding the next issue that can be latched onto and leveraged in order to disrupt, to spread fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Because they have an agenda. No, I'm not paranoid. No, I'm not making it up. It's there right in front of you. It just seems so ridiculous and so unnecessary, because it is unnecessary and ridiculous. The people, even as it's happening, find it hard to believe. And that is one of the things that makes this such a powerful weapon. Open your ears and listen to what he says.
Like with Canada, we lose $200 billion a year with Canada. That's because we allow them to make cars. We allow them to take lumber. We don't need their cars. We don't need their lumber. We don't need their food products, because we make the same products right on the other side of the border. It's sort of crazy. So we've just allowed that, bad management has allowed it over the last 4 years in particular to become very imbalanced. And I said I call him Governor Trudeau, but he's Prime Minister Trudeau when he was Prime Minister. I asked him, why would we do that? Why? And he was unable to give me an answer. He said, I don't know. And I said, do you think it's fair that we're paying $200 billion to keep Canada going? And what would happen, I asked him, what would happen if we didn't do that, if we didn't subsidize Canada? He said, we'd be a failed nation. And I said, then you should be a state. Because why are we paying all of that money to Canada when, we could use it ourselves, right? So we take care of their military. We're going to order about 40 Coast Guard big icebreakers, big ones. And all of a sudden Canada wants a piece of the deal. They say, why are we doing that? I mean, I like doing that if they're a state, but I don't like doing that if they're a nation. Also, they've been very nasty to us on trade. Historically, Canada has been very, very bad to us, very unfair to us on trade. So we'll see how it all works out. I would love to see Canada be the 51st state. The Canadian citizens, if that happened, would get a very big tax cut, tremendous tax cut, because they're very highly taxed. And you wouldn't have to worry about military. You wouldn't have to worry about many of the things. You'd have better health coverage. You'd have much.
Yeah, you'd have to worry about the military. You'd have to worry about all of that stuff. Everything would change. No, you would not get better health care. You wouldn't be any better off. Just look at the way things are in the US. Some people have a lot more, some people have a lot less. Depends on where you fall on the socioeconomic spectrum and what you do for a living, if anything, and where things will end up as we see economic disruptions because of artificial intelligence and all of these issues. And yeah, we'd have to worry about the military, because I'll tell you this, the next time there's a war, you won't have a choice, as Canadians did during Vietnam. People who didn't want to go to Vietnam, who were American, well, they fled to Canada. That wouldn't be an option anymore. When the Canadian government took a more nuanced approach to Iraq, it resulted in Canada not being fully involved in the frontline operations, flying only support roles. Taking on a support role in Iraq, wouldn't have a choice. We would become part of the United States and part of their military. And I kind of view Canada as a place of sometimes sober second thought when it comes to matters military. And in that way, once again, we're far more valuable to the U.S. as a separate country than we are as a 51st state. Not only that, we lend our voice and support on the international stage. It warrants more discussion in an honest and open way, not with a bunch of lies, especially about things like geopolitics, military, the economy. I'm not going to just sit here and make these statements myself. Let's go to Peter Schiff, an economist who I actually listen to a lot. He and I, very conservative when it comes to matters economic. He's more learned than I am. Certainly, in some respects, more conservative than I am, but I'm very much in alignment with a lot of his economic views. Free market. I'm very much a free market guy, very conservative. I think he's one of the smartest economists out there. And just like me, he can see right through Trump and his stupid tariffs and the damage that they're doing. Trump says that the tariffs are making Americans rich, that they're good for the economy. In reality, it's destroying the economy. It's hurting everybody. It's hurting the world economy. It's hurting Canada. It's hurting the United States.
Something similar is going to happen with Donald Trump. The Supreme Court is, I guess, getting close because they had oral arguments. And I said from the beginning that the Trump tariffs are unconstitutional. I mean, it's really a no-brainer. You know, if you know anything about the Constitution, you know, the power to tax is vested with Congress, specifically the House of Representatives, because all revenue bills have to originate.
Oops, hang on.
Hello, Trey.
1 moment. He's right. Oh, hang on. Let me reboot. Got to get it back up on the screen. I apologize. There we go. Peter Schiff once again.
That the Trump tariffs are unconstitutional. I mean, it's really a no-brainer. You know, if you know anything about the Constitution, you know, the power to tax is vested with Congress, specifically the House of Representatives, because all revenue bills have to originate there. And tariffs raise revenue. I mean, and the Constitution refers to tariffs as taxes. I mean, that's what they are. And Trump just can't go around slapping taxes on people because, you know, remember, the whole country, taxation was a big part of the American Revolution, right? We didn't want King George taxing us. Well, we don't want the president taxing us either, right? We wanted the representatives of the people. We wanted our own congressmen from our own districts to tax us. And then if we didn't like the taxes, we could vote them out. Every 2 years, all of the House of Representatives are up for re-election. That's why the founding fathers said that's where taxes have to start. If you're going to raise taxes on people, then you're going to go back and explain why you did that to the voters every 2 years. Because remember, the senators were not elected by the people. They were appointed by the state legislatures. So they didn't answer to the people. The president was elected by the Electoral College. He wasn't answering to the people either. The only body that was directly responsible to the people and had to face re-election every 2 years were the House of Representatives. And so our founding fathers said that's where all revenue bills must originate. Originate with the representatives who are most responsive to the people and are going to be held accountable by the very people that they're taxing. So that is the basic concept, right? And the revolution, no taxation without representation. We want our representatives to tax us because if we don't like it, we can vote them out and get some new representatives to replace them, right? But now Trump is just, throwing all these taxes and, he keeps saying, we're getting rich, we're getting rich. And he, again, on 60 Minutes, and he's telling everybody, and he's saying that if the Supreme Court strikes down his tariffs, oh my God, it's going to be Armageddon, he said. We're finished as a nation. It's a disaster. Like the whole thing is riding on these tariffs. He said, if we lose these tariffs, we're going to lose trillions and trillions of dollars. It's not trillions, and we're not losing it. We're collecting it from ourselves, right? He still thinks we're getting all this money from China and from Europe. We're not getting anything. These deals that he keeps bragging about, this is all a bunch of nonsense, right? He's making all these numbers up and pretending we're getting all of this money. We're not getting anything. Yeah, in some cases, foreign companies may be making investments in the United States, but they're not giving us that money. They own the investments. They may be building a factory here that they will own, and the profits that it generates will be going back to the home country. They're not just writing us a check and walking away. This is all a bunch of nonsense. And of course, I think most of this investment is never going to be made. They're just saying it because that's what Trump wants to hear. And then Trump wants to take it and brag to everybody about these great deals that he's cutting and how much he's making for us. Which is also frustrating because you got the Democrats moving to the left, right? And the Democrats, they also won the governor of New Jersey and Virginia, which I guess not that big a shock, right? Those are blue states, although the current Virginia governor is a Republican, so now that one flipped to a Democrat. But the Democrats are becoming more socialistic, but then so are the Republicans. That is going to be a big problem, right? We're not going in the opposite direction. Trump is also a socialist, right? You could say he's more of a fascist, not the way the left tries to label him. If you go back and go to Mussolini's fascism, he described.
Are you listening to what he's saying? This is exactly what I've been saying. Trump is not a conservative. Trump is not a free market guy. He's the opposite. He's a kind of socialist, not like a Mamdani socialist. He's more of like a fascist, a national or international socialist, really. is what he is. And he's all about central planning, not free markets. He's not a conservative. For all you guys out there, and I've had another friend message me in recent, accuse me of being a communist. I mean, that's new. That's new for me. I guess it depends on how you view me. Let's go back to Schiff. I'm going to pick it up a little ways back. Pay attention to what he's saying again. Trump, not a free market guy.
The Democrats moving to the left, right? And the Democrats, they also won the governor of New Jersey and Virginia, which I guess not that big a shock, right? Those are blue states, although the current Virginia governor is a Republican, so now that one flipped to a Democrat. But the Democrats are becoming more socialistic, but then so are the Republicans. That is going to be a big problem, right? We're not going in the opposite direction. Trump is also a socialist, right? You can say he's more of a fascist, not the way the left tries to label him. If you go back and go to Mussolini's fascism, he described fascism as corporatism. He said it's when the government and corporations work together, when the government gets very involved in corporate America. What is Trump doing? Right? That's exactly what he's doing now. The government is more involved than ever before with corporate America, taking stakes in corporate America, micromanaging where capital should be flowing, which industries should be favored, which industries should get government money, government protection, right? These are all socialist concepts. It's anti-free market. So we've got both parties moving to the left, moving in the same direction, away from freedom and capitalism and limited government towards more of a totalitarian, centrally planned, socialist type economy. And I think given the choice between, two forms of socialism, the ones that the Democrats are offering are probably going to be more appealing, especially in 2028 when Trump is finished with his term. But in the midterms in 2026, this is going to be a huge backlash. And the Republicans are going to lose their majority in Congress. Now, by the way, too, they still have the government shutdown, right? It's now a record. I forget what day we're on, but we now broke the record for the longest government shutdown. And I guess that the Democrats have offered an olive branch, which is not really an olive branch. It's kind of, it's a self-serving fake olive branch. But they're saying that, hey, if you just agree to extend the Obamacare cuts for a year, right? The premiums, not the cuts. I mean, if you preserve the subsidies for another year, we'll vote, for the continuing resolution to reopen the government, right? We just, you don't have to make them permanent. Just keep them around for another year. Now, if the Republicans bite on that, they might as well vote to make them permanent because it was already supposed to be temporary. And if they extend them now for a year, well, why wouldn't they do it again a year from now, right? If the Republicans are going to cave now, why won't they cave in a year when it will be even harder to do it, right? Now is the time. It's like now or never, because the longer you leave a temporary program in place that provides a benefit, the harder it is to actually take that benefit away. And so it'll never be easier to take it away than right now. And
so, point taken. And the main point that I hope you clued into there was that with Trump, you're getting a socialist. You have a socialist in the White House, not a conservative. The reason he's using tariffs is sometimes economic, but often not. It's all about control. We'll see where the Supreme Court ends up on this in the U.S. And if you look at what's happening down there, things are no better. In fact, they're worse in many respects, especially when it comes to debt. 38 trillion is what the United States owes now. And they're telling certain Canadians that if you vote to separate, you'll be much better off. You'll be wealthy. No, no, no. Smoke and mirrors, false promises, fifth generation warfare. How to take over a country without firing a shot. How to buy a whole country for $500 million. Set up a slush fund, offer it as operating capital to a separatist organization, and then who knows how much other money is being slipped into pockets behind the scenes. What else is being done to destabilize Canada and other countries in Trump's sights as he begins or continues his effort to reshape the world and carve up, with the cooperation of other leaders like Putin and Xi Jinping, carve the world up into spheres of dominance. The United States contracting, pulling back into the Americas. America. See, Gulf of America. Words are important. It's how you think. He wants you to think of the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America, because tonight, even as we sit here, Trump is rattling the saber, threatening a threatening saber in the direction of even Colombia and even Mexico. Oh, yes. Shine bomb in Mexico, sending in troops after a mayor was assassinated in order to combat drug cartels there, but also over in Colombia. This is translated what I'm about to run. This is Colombia's Petro blasting Trump over these U.S. missile strikes, the attacks on those boats. See, if you start to look at the map, it all comes together, right? This flows right into the whole great reset that I've been pointing out to people, which is not the great reset that everybody's been told about. They've got you looking in the wrong direction, folks. Keeping in mind that Russia was also part of the World Economic Forum until the invasion in Crimea began, and then the full-scale invasion in Ukraine took hold. But Russia's part of it, but that's really what's going on, at least in Trump world. Trump is moving his military forces around in order to carve out his portion of his place of the world, the Americas, to create a greater America. And Colombia is in his sights. Here's the president of Colombia.
And we come from a place where at that moment, two people, specifically Mr. Trump and Mr. Netanyahu, felt completely and utterly alone, isolated from everyone else around them. But they don't let us go to the meetings. We don't vote or anything. We just buy NATO's weapons. It is an experience for the world. It is a demonstration of barbaric power. Right here in this city, we have already experienced it. A poor fisherman came from here. His name was Alejandro Carranza. Because now missiles are falling, not only in Gaza, as we saw on television, but right here in front of us in our Caribbean Sea, which was not only sailed by pirates trying to take our gold, answer to the missiles in the Caribbean, killing poor people because there isn't a single drug trafficker there, only workers, passengers in an illicit trade that shapes the world. Some American writer from the United States wrote a little small book that's not easily found nowadays, called 10 Days That Shook the World by John Reed from New York. I believe we are living through days that are shaking the world undoubtedly, and not only must we live them intensely, but we must also try to understand them. That understanding is necessary for those who, in one way or another, whether in the neighborhood, in the village, in the municipality, in the territory, at the local or national level, or even in these spheres where dialogues between states take place up to this moment, like the meeting being held here in Santa Marta, which is the heart of the world. With all due respect to the world, this is the heart of the world, as the Arhuaco and Kogi indigenous peoples say, who should have a presence here through their organizations. To understand what is happening, where we are headed, what to do, as was said before. The intensity of these days must not blind the people. They have to rethink their actions, even their own individual activities, because we are not going to leave here the same as we arrived. And I'm not just referring to arriving in this city, but to these intense days. The world will be different, for better or for worse. It depends on our own efforts. It depends on the peoples of humanity. Just look at what has just happened, almost as if in one of those games where you throw yourself nearly recklessly, almost off a steep cliff. We come from the United Nations General Assembly, which is held in New York City, and we come from a place where at that moment, two people, specifically Mr. Trump and Mr. Netanyahu, felt completely and utterly alone, isolated from everyone else around them. Trump, somewhat more intelligent than Netanyahu, quickly realized what that meant. Their own NATO, built since the end of World War II and the beginning of what they called the Cold War, a military coalition. NATO was conceived exclusively for the defense of the peoples of the North Atlantic, or rather for the defense of their power, the power of capital, as someone here said, which was based in that geography. Peoples from cold seas mostly decided to support Palestine at the United Nations Assembly. That was a historic moment that has been little analyzed. We did the math because President Santos got us involved in a strange thing that nobody understands, which is being a strategic partner of NATO over there. But they don't let us go to the meetings. We don't vote or anything. We just buy NATO's weapons. They don't help us. We buy them. It was a lie that they were helping us. There hasn't been a single free weapon that has arrived in this country. If we're not with them, they take the weapons away. Otherwise, we have to buy them. It's that simple. But when tallying up the NATO states, those who were supporting Netanyahu's policy or staying silent, and those who had decided to support, even if just formally, even if a bit hypocritically, the state of Palestine, which is what it should be called. Well, it turned out that they lost their majority with France. They lost their majority with several European countries that, driven by their people, decided to change their position. And that reached the United Nations Assembly and left Mr. Trump and Mr. Netanyahu in the greatest isolation. And words were spoken because in an assembly like that, what you hear are words, words, words. But somehow or another, the words began to gain power, to have power to possess a kind of influence that was previously unimaginable. As the people say, words have power, words can shape destinies, words can move hearts and minds. And just moments later, the crowds gathered, the young women and men full of hope and determination who set out bravely on boats to sail the vast, unpredictable sea, to reach the distant shores of Gaza, to bring some much-needed food, supplies, and relief to those in desperate need, risking everything for a cause they believed in deeply. And they were practically imprisoned, tortured. There are 2 Colombians here. I don't know if they're around here. I don't see them in the crowd. Taken to jail along with Greta, Luna, and Manuela. They must be around here. I told them I was going to give them the Cruz de Boyacá and to several Palestinian leaders as well. I hope my foreign minister takes note and that the excuse doesn't come up in certain places in my government that say that since there isn't the medal can't be made. And so, sorry about the decoration. careful.
Okay. You think these things aren't connected? You think that ostrich farm is its own thing? No, it's not. No, it isn't. It actually intersects with all of this. It intersects with this whole plan to reset everything. That's what the tariffs are too. It's resetting the economy. Everything is shifting. Everything is in a state of disruption. I never thought I'd see the day when the United States, in my lifetime, I never thought I would see the United States being seen as an actual existential threat to Mexico. And here's Scheinbaum giving saying a hard no to the United States intervening after the assassination of Carlos Manzo, a prominent mayor, politician in Mexico, as Mexico ramps up its efforts to combat drug cartels there, which largely is a response to the Trump administration and a certain element within the Trump administration to target Mexican drug cartels, specifically through something called Operation Sinaloa. But Mexico is saying, thanks, but no thanks. We can handle it on our own, because Scheinbaum is very afraid of what the U.S. might do to Mexico. She's trying to protect Mexican sovereignty as they grapple with the issue of dealing with the drug cartel.
This condemnable coward, vile homicide of Carlos Manzo, mayor of Uruapan. First, we condemn the homicide. Second, our solidarity and condolences go to the family, to their loved ones. Yesterday, we were in contact with the family. All investigations are being carried out, in addition to the arrests that were made and the person who was killed at the same time, and the arrests. All investigations are being carried out by the Mycocan Prosecutor's Office, and all support is being provided as required by the Security Cabinet. We will continue all investigations until we can identify those responsible, not only materially, but who ordered this execution. What does the right wing propose? War against drug trafficking. Bring back former government official and convicted drug trafficker Genaro Garcia Lun. What do they propose? Intervention. That leads nowhere. At no point did I hear a condolence to the family. But yes, they are like vultures. Do they really care about Uruapan? Do they really care about Mycocan? Do they really care about the family? No. What matters to them is to use this for their own benefits. Mexico is a free and sovereign country, as Omar said yesterday. We accept help with information, intelligence, but not intervention. Justice is the only way to build peace and security. Social justice and a true justice system where there is zero impunity.
President, what type of help could be received from the United States government following the offer made by Undersecretary Christopher Landon to Mexico after the mayor's assassination?
It is established in the understanding document we have. The last is essentially intelligence information they might have about some criminal group, and that is part of the investigations conducted here. And from there, if considered appropriate according to the information, it is handled within the framework of the law.
From the Hindustan Times. So I've said too that this vision, this political ideology that is driving this realignment, this reimagining of geopolitical realities, of creating spheres of dominance. And in this case, in the Western Hemisphere, you're seeing Trump push toward the creation of a greater America that stretches from Greenland all the way to Panama and maybe beyond that, which is in complete total alignment with this new geopolitical plan. Largely, a lot of this is coming out of Russia and the neo-Eurasianism and that philosophy that I've talked about here. This all makes sense through that lens. And you see the plan being enacted, and there is a plan. keep saying to people, or people are being told, trust the plan, trust the plan. What's the plan? This is the plan. They've got you looking at the WEF, at George Soros. Those are factors. They're part of it, but it's broader than that. You're not, they have you not looking through the right lens because they've got you looking at that stuff on the West and the WEF and the World Health Organization, and they've got your mind all wrapped up in that. Well, they've got you ignoring completely BRICS for the most part, and the similar efforts, especially between Russia and China, to realign things in their spheres of dominance to come as well. And that's why, largely Trump is rattling the saber toward China. And there is absolutely tension there, because there will always be tension between these three great powers. But there's this mutual respect and recognition of each of these great powers as great powers. Not so with a country like Canada, where Trump has no respect. Not so with Mexico, where Trump has no respect. The only thing that's holding him back from just taking what he wants is the American people. And those people who push back against him and say, hey, we are going to hold you accountable at the polls. When we go to vote, we'll hold you accountable in the midterms. He still has to work to some degree within the framework of U.S. law and the U.S. Constitution. Therein lies some of the constraints. That's why what the Supreme Court decides with regard to the tariffs is so important. That is the main foundational underpinning that Trump has for his administration. If he loses that, his whole plan begins to unravel and fall apart. He needs that, because that is not free market. It's the opposite of that. It gives him all kinds of power. It centralizes his power into a form of unitary executive power, where he can, with the stroke of a Sharpie, declare laws. With him, he can decide one day to the next what level of tariff is applied against a country. If Ontario runs an ad he doesn't like and it hurts his feelings, an extra 10% tariff on you. If he doesn't like the government that the people elect in a neighboring country, he'll put a tariff on them, put a ton of pressure on that country, on that country's government, in order to effect change, either through policy and or regime change. Putin's doing the same thing. Xi does the same thing. Xi wants Taiwan. Trump will let him have it, ultimately, as long as China stays out of the U.S. backyard. Trump doesn't really care what goes on in Ukraine anymore, if the United States ever really did have that much of an interest in it. Certainly with Trump, it's a whole different ball game. They'll sell weapons, as you saw the president of Colombia say. If you're not with the U.S., they take your weapons away. They'll still sell them to you, but they don't give you any help. And that's what's going on in Ukraine, which also undermines the whole narrative that people have been spinning up to support the Russian assertion that it was NATO expansion and U.S. threat, and a U.S. threat through NATO expansionism, that justified the Russian invasion of Ukraine. In fact, you can see right now that the Ukrainian government is not a puppet of the U.S., only a puppet in the sense that they need the weapons, but they're not doing just whatever Trump wants. And in fact, they're acting very much in their own interests at this point, and ignoring largely what the United States is saying and dictating. And that's why you're seeing these strikes inside Russian territory now using Ukrainian-made drones. And the U.S. assisting in many respects, but not really treating this as though they have a direct interest in what goes on in Ukraine. Quite the opposite with the Trump administration. And even under Biden, I think they had business interests there, but overall, I don't think they really cared whether Ukraine survived as a country. That's why they only gave, if whatever Ukraine requested in terms of military aid, even, they would give like half, just enough to keep it going, keep the money machine rolling. And does Ukraine have a right to exist as a nation state? You can debate it one way or another. My personal view is yes, they do. And if any country out there has deserved it, Ukraine deserves it, because they've been a doormat since well before World War II, with countries going right through there and exerting their influence and forcing Ukraine to bend the knee to support either Germany one day and then the Soviet Union the next. And then after the Cold War, finally achieving the independence that they wanted, and then always being painted with a negative brush by one side or the other, accusing them of war crimes this and being associated with Nazis there or communists over there, because they were given little choice in the matter. Or no choice, really. And now this is all unfolding. And so I only say all of this, and maybe it sounds like I'm off the beaten track and losing my focus, but I'm really not, because at the end of the day, I keep having people say, those wars, those other countries have nothing to do with us. Yes, they do. Everything ties together, because we are getting this complete realignment. This great reset is happening before our very eyes. And the PSYOPs, the information warfare campaigns that are taking place, are being conducted in such a fashion through operations like Operation Ostrich out in Edgewood, BC. Those things are being conducted in such a way that the people involved don't even realize that they are oftentimes working against their own interests and being convinced or manipulated into supporting things that they are actually diametrically opposed to, like mask mandates, vaccine research, that maybe the kind of vaccine research that they don't even agree with. And they get them so emotionally jacked up that they do crazy things that they wouldn't otherwise do, that they say crazy things that they otherwise would not say. Normally, very sane, reasonable, middle of the road people that I sometimes often call my friends, who have become victims of some sort of crazy psychological manipulation to the point where they have gone from being regular, ordinary Canadians to people saying that they would like to cull police officers. People who otherwise would have been my friend, now threatening me in a barrage of phone messages that suck up all the memory in my voicemail box. Because there's this strange ostrich, mass formation ostrich psychosis that is sweeping the nation. Donate now. Donate now. I say, take a deep breath, stay calm, carry on, get your head out of the internet for a little while, do your own great reset, reset your mind, put it all in perspective. And we'll be okay. Because all this crap that they've been throwing at us is all fake. See you tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, on the flip side.
Biden's about, Charlie's alive, Elvis Elvis flips burgers on the Lower East Side. 10 Trumps mask up on your phone. Shilling mean coins by remote drone. Graphene needles in your veins. Chemtrail sugar fries your brain. George Floyd's American hologram pie. Don't trust your lying eyes. It's all fake. It's all fake. The moon is a hoax. Give your head a shake. It's all fake. It's all fake. Your mama's a lizard. Your daddy's a snake. Bigfoot codes, the Mossad plan. Flat Earth truckers fighting the man. Dinosaurs guard an empty fed vault. Truth is dead and it's the media's fault. Conspiracies are real, let it sink in. Time travel, JFK is president again. 9/11's a VR game. The elite cut deals in the devil's name. It's all fake. It's all fake. From the jab to the pills that you take. It's all fake. It's all fake. The Pope's in a bunker with Q as his mate. Your phone's a snitch. Your dog's AI. The king eats penguins in conspiracy pie. JFK Jr., Cobain, and Tupac. They ain't dead. They're all coming back. It's all fake. It's all fake. Every headline, every handshake. It's all fake. It's all fake. FBI, CIA, KGB, ABC. Are you awake? Don't believe your lying eyes. It's all fake. It's all fake.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.